Hi, I'm Nellie Knitter, and today I'm going to teach you how to make one stitch. Firstly, I'm going to talk about why you may need to make a stitch, and then I'm going to demonstrate it with a pattern. And then finally, I'm going to show you how I prefer to make one stitch. I think it's a little bit of a trick, and hopefully you find it easier in your knitting to make one stitch the way that I make it. So one reason you may need to make a stitch is if you're knitting a glove or a mitten and you need to increase stitches for your thumb. So if I hold this up, you should be able to see little holes there on the side, and that's because I've had to make stitches. And when you make stitches, it pulls at the edges of your stitch because you're making two stitches from one. Personally, I don't think this is a really big deal, but some people, like my mother, say, oh, there's a big hole in your mitten there, and it's just a function of making a stitch, and I don't really consider it a big deal. Another reason why you may need to make a stitch is in a pattern like this sock that I made. So in this sock you have places where you do decreases. So each row of this I knit two together and slip knit in different places. So I've decreased and lost 2 stitches. So in order to do that, I need to make stitches up in order to conserve my stitch count, otherwise my garment is actually going to shrink. So these are reasons that you need to make stitches. Okay, so now in this pattern, you can see here every couple rows there's a little hole that shows up, and there's another one there and another one up there. So in these cases I've had to make 2 stitches. I'm only going to show you how to make one, but if I follow that diagonally down, there are made stitches along a row there and here. And if I go over to my purl stitches over here, you can see on either side I have a decrease. So on the one side, this side, I have my knit 2 together stitches, and on this side I have my slip knits. Okay, so I have 2 decreases on each row, which then means when I do my increases I have to have 2 on each row. Now when you make your stitch, if your pattern is well written, it will tell you exactly how it wants to make the extra stitch. The pattern that I'm using does, and it says to make one by picking up the strand between the stitches with the left hand needle from front to back and then knit into the back of the stitch. Sometimes it's called a make one left. There's another way that you can do it called make one right, but I'm going to show you the make one left. I find this description very cumbersome and difficult and awkward for making an extra stitch. So afterwards I will show you the small differences that I do when I make my stitch. Okay, so here's the yarn that I'm going to use. It's a little bit thicker, but so it's easier to spot my made stitches, like there where my finger's poking through. But it should be easier when I come to actually making the stitches as I'm knitting. Now I'm going to try and put the pattern along the bottom so you can follow along with the stitches as I make them. Now, for my border of this, I've added a little border to it. And it's just simple of 3 stitches purled. Okay. And then I'm into my pattern. So my pattern starts with a knit 2 together. So I'm going to do that. And then I have to knit 3 stitches, and then I get to my make stitch. Alright, so the first thing that I have to do is locate my strand. So my strand is right here, and you should be able to see that it's tied into the stitch below on my right hand needle. And if I were to move this and pull up on it, you can see that it's also pulling up on the strand of my left hand needle. So that's what I say when I mean that's what I mean when I say locate the strand. It's right there. Okay. Then I take my left hand needle and I insert it into that strand. So I'll do that again. I've inserted into that strand. Next, I need to take my right hand needle and put it into the back side of this stitch. Now this is the part that I don't like, because it's a little tricky to get it in there. So I kind of cheat and roll the yarn up so that there's a bit of slack in the back. And then I just knit through that stitch. Alright, so I've made one. I'll show you how to do that again. Just continue my pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches I've knit. Okay, so now I'm at where I need to make my next stitch. So this stitch always wants to fall off, so I'm going to kind of hold it, insert it into my work there, and then I'm going to roll that up so that there's some slack in the back of my work, and insert my right hand needle into the back of the stitch, or the back of that loop I should say. And then I'm going to knit through the back of that loop. Okay, I'm going to continue my pattern. 1, 2, 3 stitches knit. Then I do my decrease, slip, slip, knit, and then I knit 2 together. Then I knit 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, and now I'm back to where I need to make 1 stitch. So this time I'm going to show you my trick. So rather than taking this left hand needle and inserting it into the front, I'm going to take my right hand needle and I'm going to insert it into the back of that loop. And you can see that if I put it now onto my left hand needle, it's exactly the same thing. So that's the first step, and rather than inserting my left hand needle into the front, I'm going to insert my right hand needle into the back. Then I'm going to take my left hand needle, since it's free, and insert it into the front of that stitch. And once I've done that, you should be able to see that I have exactly the same stitch that I had before. So that I'm ready now, and if I were to knit through the back loop like I'm supposed to, it comes out exactly the same. Alright, I'll show that to you one more time. So I knit 6, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now I need to increase again, so I take my right hand needle, find my strand, which is right there, put it into that strand, take my left hand needle, put it into the front of that stitch, and look at how easy it is to put it in there. And then I knit through the back of the loop, and then I knit 3, 1, 2, 3, and I slip, slip, knit, and then I purl 3 to end off my border that I've made on my little swatch here. Alright, now if I stretch this out, you should be able to see my made stitches. I have 6 stitches in the middle. 1, 3, so there's my 1 stitch that I've made. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there's my other stitch that I've made right there. So I hope that trick that I showed you was helpful to you in your knitting when you need to make a stitch.